Hi, everybody. I'm here today with Noha, the founder and Secretary General of the Egyptian Fintech Association, as well as the elected Vice President of the Africa Fintech Network. Noha, welcome to the Fintech Times today.
Thank you very much, Richie. It's my pleasure to be with you here today.
Thank you. And it was such an honor to feature and interview you in September for our Women in Fintech feature. So it's great to have you again here today. So my first question to you, Noha, is in regards to Egypt, everybody knows what Egypt is, but in terms of fintech, can you give us a bit of background in terms of the last 10 years, the last decade, in terms of Egypt's fintech ecosystem?
Well, it's a huge market, just as you've said. We have 100 plus million of Egyptians, very high penetration rates when it comes to mobile phones, smart mobile phones, laying the grounds for reach and accessibility to digital financial services.
Mm-hmm.
The government has financial inclusion on top of its agenda. So they were very supportive over the past 10 years to building and nurturing the ecosystem, the fintech ecosystem in Egypt. Collaborating with multiple players on the ground, whether it's academia, whether it's the private sector, of incumbent banks, incumbent insurance companies, and microfinance institutions in Egypt that have been up and running with reasonably large databases of customers in order to offer opportunities for fintechs to actually be established and to grow and scale. So if you look at 10 years, you are going to find initiatives like putting together financial inclusion strategy for the country, positioning technology as a pillar for success. You are going to find the fintech strategy launched and published by the Central Bank of Egypt last year, and it's been under execution since then. You are going to find new regulations, regulatory frameworks that are issued by the central bank covering digital payments, covering fintech licensing, and we currently have also one line by the Financial Regulatory Authority, which is the authority in charge of uh, running and operating other financial institutions other than banks. So if you look at insurance or micro finance, leasing, and any other financial activities other than banking is under the umbrella of the Financial Regulatory Authority. They're currently working on their fintech regulation as well that is going to enable new models such as crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending and multiple others. I would say that the ecosystem has been growing at a really unexpected pace over the past 5 years. You would find multiple incubators, accelerators that are supporting fintech startups in the country, whether they are run by the government or run by venture capital funds and um, educational institutes and universities operating here in Cairo. You'd find a lot of venture capital funds, two major networks of angel investors supporting the ecosystem, education as well. Multiple universities are looking into fintech programs, whether they are undergrad or postgrad or even diplomas to introduce the concepts. So I would say that it's a very lively and of course to me this is exciting times. Yeah.
And especially this year when we revamped our Middle East and Africa section and launched it this year, it's been exciting to see the developments this year. And like you were saying, the past decade, for those that have been following Egypt, it's very incredible. So my question to you, my second question is, our theme this month is around partnerships. And obviously for Egypt to have grown and to keep growing, how have partnerships from a regional point of view, but also from an international point of view, helped Egypt get to where it is today?
Well, let's put it this way. Technology is borderless, and the majority of the businesses that are scaling currently are technological platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So regional and international collaborations play a very integral role in supporting the scalability of such businesses,
Yeah.
especially that not all the markets in the region are big enough to support uh, uh, growth and continuity of startups. So cross-border and international collaborations are a must. It's a mandate if you want to build a successful startup and sustain a certain level of growth over the years. Luckily, the mindset of either entrepreneurs operating within that ecosystem of fintechs or the supporting organizations, governments who are aware of that importance, is more of a collaborative mindset than competitive one.
Yeah.
So you'd find people stepping in, offering support, whether they are mentors, whether they are government officials, whether they are investors, early stage investors. Everybody wants to achieve something,
Mm.
everybody wants to grow, but it's not competitive at all.
Excellent. And I think you're right with partnerships. It's borderless, right? So it's not just an Egypt success story, but amongst other countries as well. My third question as well is, Egypt has grown a lot in, from the decade you were highlighting. Where do you see Egypt with respect to fintech, wider tech, entrepreneurship, even financial services in the next year, in the next 5 years, and so on?
We are witnessing change, fundamental change in the
Mm.
way banks are operating, the way insurance companies and microfinance agencies are operating. They are becoming more adoptive to technology and technological solutions. The mindset has changed, and they are now in that exploratory phase on how can they collaborate and work with fintechs, achieving a win-win situation where they can actually get used of the agility of the startups on the ground, their customer centricity, the innovation aspect of things, while keeping their integrity, while tackling and attending to every regulation there is, while having in place the right measures for consumer protection. Um, so I see things changing on the ground. And we are going to see a lot of interesting business models that emerge from such partnerships and collaborations. We are going to see banks offering bank as a service on the back end, while startups are actually, fintech startups are onboarding and supporting with customer digital identification, digital KYC, doing non-traditional credit scoring for companies and individuals without the right, the traditional credit history. We are going to see a lot of banks open to offering a bank as a platform, opening their technology channels to onboard startups that are actually offering complementary services and giving them access to their customer database, whether they are individuals or business customers. We see a lot of changes happening, and that is only going to grow. We're definitely looking forward to it because at such high rates of financial exclusion in our region, doing so, such collaborative models are going to serve the cause, while, of course, generating and building new revenue streams for incumbent banks and other financial institutions, serving new market segments that they couldn't reach before due to higher costs of customer acquisition and servicing using the brick and mortar modeled as pretty expensive to
Yeah.
run.
Excellent. And my final question, Noha, to end this is, can you give a piece of advice to anyone watching this, particularly those from abroad outside of Egypt who might be interested in doing business in Egypt in the space? What piece of advice you might give him or her in terms of doing business in Egypt?
That's a very tricky question, Richie. I mean, the area, the region, and our markets are very attractive due to the fact that the market sizes are big,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely underserved. So any service where there is a need for it is, and you offer the right way, is going to succeed and be adopted. And the growth rates that you get for either if you're selling a product or offering a service in our markets are absolutely unmatched, cannot be matched in any other mature market. And that's, of course, the plus point of operating in emerging markets in general, not just Egypt. But of course, there are on the other side, you might face challenges on the ground while operating if you do not have the right partner with the right understanding of the market and how things operate. But if you have those partnerships in place, it is the most attractive market ever. Having the right partner on the ground who's going to be tackling day-to-day operations, managing certain activities that require market knowledge and the right connections on the ground. And that's like reality. It's everywhere. It's not just in here. It becomes a very, very attractive market. When you put on top of that, attracting foreign investment, growing the entrepreneurship ecosystem and supporting new entrants to the market, bringing new technologies or new business models that serves financial inclusion, for example, supporting exports and other objectives that are on the top of the agenda of the government is very, very well supported. And we have the regulatory framework that guarantees that operating in here is monitored and is absolutely controlled. So we don't have an issue. I would always advise people operating in other markets to look into it when expanding, especially if the model that they're bringing in can serve financial inclusion or is in the financial industry in general. There is a huge, huge opportunity.
A large population, unbanked potential, and just a lot of changes in digital transformation. That's a very good way to put it. So Noha, thank you so much for your time, and it was great to speak to you again. And hope to see you in Egypt, hopefully once this is all over with the pandemic.